G'day everyone, here we are, Mondays at Moffs, episode 2. Well, not really, this is reboot of episode 2, which was filmed on another platform that we won't name because I don't know the legalities between the two. But let's just say it's not plug and play, and I really want everyone here to get a chance to see this episode, and I promise we'll be back to live episodes. We've got a bunch of great people lined up to talk to. We've got Matt over at the Factory Surfboards. We've got Kate who's over at Waves Photography. We've got a real mixed bag of great locals, which I'm looking forward to talking to. But this is a cracking episode. So it's with Maddie Wilson from the Moffat Beach Brewing Co. I won't do a big intro because I'll probably do it in the show. What I will say, though, which is awesome, is that whilst they're not selling cans through Dan Murphy's and what have you at the moment, as they've run out, because I guess they're too popular, what you can get is if you are local or you come and visit Moffat Beach, you can head to the brewery down there and you can actually get a mixed 4-pack. And so Maddie's been kind enough to throw this together for me. So we've got this, the Josh Porter Pale Ale. Look at that. Look at that. Smiling champion. We've got the Hinterland Haze Triple Dry Hopped Pale Ale. We've got the Simcoe Single Hop Pale Ale. And we've got the Social Jam. Share it with your friends. Share it with your friends. Share it with your mates. It's kind of one of my sort of outro pieces. So, yeah, 500ml cans. So you won't need too many of those. I'm going to, if you hear a little, that'll be me giving a little tip of the hat as we go through. I'll crack some of those open, maybe even stop the show here and there just to let you know exactly how that all goes. All right, let's see. We're going to get up. Oh, who's this good-looking rooster? Oh, just kidding, just kidding. It's got too much going on this computer sometimes, I can tell you. All right. Thought I could try and squeeze it to get the comments off, but I can't. All right. Anyway, on with the show. G'day, everybody. I hope everyone's... hang on, sorry. Everyone here in Australia. Obviously... Sorry, technical drama there. In the thick of Monday. Right, that's going to be better. Monday. G'day, everybody. I hope everyone's having a nice time. Everyone here in Australia, obviously in the thick of Monday. Probably not everybody's favourite day of the week, so hopefully Mondays at Moffs makes it a little bit shinier and brighter and something more exciting to tune into. G'day, Maddie, he's there. So, yes, we'll launch into it shortly. Hello to all of the overseas people, anybody who's viewing this later on. Yeah, thanks for checking it out and supporting the community. As I've stated before, really the big goal here is to try and help local Moffat Beach business owners, but the information and the stories I think can be relevant to anybody in any part of the world. So don't just turn it off because we're in Australia and it's Moffat Beach focused. But I do like the idea of our local community of businesses trying to work a bit tighter together. There's already a great vibe in the community. I'm still relatively new, so, hopefully nobody's sort of going, who the heck's this guy and why does he think he can just come in there and start stirring things up? But, I've got a job to do and that job really is to get people involved and raise awareness for everything that's going on with my social enterprise when the time's right. So we won't bang on about that today. Flicks for Good. If you want to check it out, go to the website. It's FLICKS, the number 4, good. So sort of like Bradford Good, but it's flicksforgood.com.au. And essentially it's a social enterprise video streaming platform that I hope to launch into the stratosphere with your help and a lot of other people, and we can get it going, build something from the community that can hopefully at some stage rival the big guys, and we can funnel a bunch of money into good causes rather than it just going into buying Lambos and mansions and all those other things. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but it would be nice to see some of the billions of dollars being spent on entertainment actually going to a good cause. Hi, Varna. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's get Matt in here. Righto. I'm just going to fire this up.
Sorry, accidentally.
All right.
Screen now.
Waiting for Moffat Beach Brewing Co. Local legend, Matt Wilson.
Why is it doing that?
Who also lived in a part of Australia close to where I lived for a little while. So, West, here he is. G'day, the legend. No Mo.
I've had a shave.
You've had a massive shave.
I have, yes.
When did this happen?
After the gym this morning, actually.
This morning, fresh.
Yeah, fresh.
No Mo.
No Mo. First time in a couple of years.
Yeah. Do you feel like a Smurf or something?
It feels a bit weird, yeah.
I can still remember when my old man shaved his moustache off. Like, to the age of, I think, about 10, he had a big moustache, much like yours.
Yeah.
Kind of number. And one day I was just sitting there minding my own business, watching, I don't know, Skippy or something, and Dad comes out, walking, walks out the front door, and I was doing the double take, and I'm like, what the heck? He's got no mustache. It really threw. I mean, as a kid, like, it really threw me for a bit. So, has Shaz seen you yet?
No one. This is it.
Wow. Okay, way to go. And the kids, did they know this was going to happen?
Nah, they're at school.
Did you have a shaving incident this morning, or this was?
No, I was at the gym, and it was bloody hard to breathe through all the hair. So I thought, look at this. So I got home and whipped it off.
Oh well, who knows, mate? You'll be probably a bit easier on the face for the old the kissing, the romance.
Yeah. I'll think about that eventually.
The romance, but I know you're a married man with a couple of kids, so I don't know what. Anyway, my world of romance is like a bygone era. Who knows? I might make it come back.
Yeah.
But mate, I think we're getting a little bit of feedback actually in that thing up there. Maybe turn the volume down. Yep. Just turn me down a little bit.
How's that?
That's better, I think. Yeah, there's probably still a little bit there. I think it's all right. What, Varna, Lucy, what do you think? I think it sounds okay now. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. I'm still finding my way around all this stuff myself, to be honest.
Cool.
If I expect to be getting reverb off the wall behind you, possibly.
Yeah, I'm at the new site, so and the office here is a little bit echoey, so
Bit more echoey, yeah.
Please be patient.
And so Cosmic Queen, now she's coming on the show Wednesday. Wednesdays I've got Thursday. Sorry, Thursdays I've got a show called Change Makers, and it's all about people doing stuff social base or not profit, or just making an impact out there. And I came by her by last week's guest lady, Nikki Hind, who runs an outfit called Blind Grit, and she's the first legally blind fashion designer in Australia. So it was quite an interesting story. Anyway, we're here today. We're here to talk about your story. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and I guess what you're up to.
Yeah, my name's Matt. My wife and I, we own Moffat Beach Brewing Company, which is a small little microbrewery on the beach at Moffs.
Yes.
How that came about, I'm a military veteran. I left the army in about 2006, I think it was, and then started working in finance in Sydney, where I met Sharon, my wife, and then we got married, had a couple of kids, and then I was made redundant from my role there, and Sharon just really didn't. She didn't want to live in Sydney anymore, just with the hustle and bustle. So we found this little venue that was on the beach at Moffs, and we thought, well, with pretty much zero hospitality experience on my part at least, Shaz has had a fair bit. We thought, bugger it, let's start a cafe on the beach.
Let's do it.
On the Sunshine Coast. So we put the kids in the car and up we went. And we've always had a vision.
I mean, it's easy to fall. It's a cracking spot. It's easy to see, how you can fall in love with it. Especially you've got Sydney, and then you've got Moffat. It's just this little piece of like paradise, just there.
Sharon actually found the place online.
Yeah.
And then we flew up and we had a look at it. It was a Monday afternoon. There was nothing open, and it was just torrential rain. It was coming in sideways. You couldn't even see the beach. And it was obvious that the guy that was in there before us had gone broke in a big way. And Shaz was just like, I don't know. And I went, fuck it, come on, we can do this. And look, I just remember when we just drove over the hill down Seaview Terrace, and we just saw it was magic, and we've gone, yes, we've hit the jackpot here. But we always, it was a bit of a hard slog at the start. Like we were just.
What year was that? That
was 2012.
Yeah. G'day, Brett. Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was just saying g'day to the people popping in as well. So yeah,
cool.
So 2012. Okay.
2012, late 2012, and we had a 3-year-old and an 18-month-year-old, and it was a bit of a hard slog. We didn't have a liquor license or anything, but we always had this vision of doing something with beer. It's always been a passion of mine. And there was, I suppose, the light bulb moment for us was we'd spent, a couple of days painting in there and giving it a spruce up. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and we went out to the benches that overlooked the beach there, and we got a 6-pack of beer from the bottle shop. And we watched the neighbours packing up at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There was people everywhere, and we just thought, why is no one doing beer here? It's just the place is born to have a couple of beers and put some live music on and look at the ocean. So that was our focus. The first thing we did was we put beer taps in, and that worked for us straight away.
And that was that. So the initial beer taps, I assume, was somebody else's beer.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a brewery in Sydney called Four Pines, and I was a fan of their beers. Sharon and I used to go there quite a bit. Yeah. And that was where we got the idea for the brew pub model as well, because they had this little this brew kit on the beach in Manly, and now they've subsequently been bought out by CUB, which was owned by AB InBev. Initially we had their beer on. They gave us a little kegerator, and it was just so popular that I said, look, I need another one. So then we put that on, and then that was we were finding that we were just going through it too quick. So Shaz and I, we then just made the investment to put in some beer taps, and I was brewing at home. And Shaz just said, look, the beers at home are tasting just as good, if not better, than the stuff that we're buying in. We've got this dead space up the back of the venue where nobody sits because everyone wants to sit out the front and look at the ocean and have a beer. Maybe we look at putting in a little brew house. So we did our research, and it was probably about sort of 2 years in the planning, and then we just begged, borrowed, and stole, and we put a little 300-litre system up there, which is still there, and which I've been brewing on.
Yes.
And away we went. So it took me a little while to dial the system in, because I had no commercial brewing experience whatsoever. It was just everything was done in my garage at home.
Yeah.
So it took me about 6 months to scale the beers up to a standard that I was happy with.
Yeah.
And then we started...
Still selling it all the while, though, I'm sure.
What's that?
Still selling it to the punters as you go.
Oh, yeah. Like, one of my good mates, Steve Crawford, like he's actually said to me the other day, he goes, geez, the beer was shit when you started. He goes, but we still fucking drank it. So, but then, yeah, the brewery went in 2015, and then we entered our first sort of national competition in 2016, and we got absolutely just slaughtered. Like the feedback that we got was brutal. Yeah, absolutely brutal. But it was good for us because, you know, I got the feedback and I went, okay, so this is what I'm doing wrong here, this is what I'm doing wrong here. And rather than just get down about it, I use that feedback to improve my processes. And there was one underlying fault in every single beer. So that feedback allowed me to work out what that was, and then I fixed it, and then the beers improved overnight. And then the next year in 2017 down at Adelaide, we picked up a gold and 2 silvers, and then the year after that we won Champion Small Brewery in Australia, which was amazing. And then from there on, you know, we've just been plugging away. Winning that Champion Small Brewery title really put us on the map and gave us a bit of street cred, not only in our local community, but in the beer community. And from there on in, we put in some bigger tanks down at Moffs, but that still wasn't enough to keep up. We were still having to buy beer in from other breweries to fill our taps. We've got 8 taps down there. Yeah. And then, this year we pulled the trigger on a bigger production facility, which we'll have a tap room in it as well, just for the sole reason that we can't keep up with demand. We don't sell really any wholesale beer at all out into the marketplace. Every drop that we make gets sold through our own taps. We just started canning at another brewery last year, but it looks like we're losing the ability to do that because they're so busy as well. So, we pulled the trigger on the bigger facility last year, and then COVID hit. But we were way too far down the track to put the brakes on it. And I'll be honest, it's probably been a bit of a blessing in disguise because it has allowed me to focus on it and get it all in. So we're almost ready to start brewing on the new setup very, very soon.
That's sort of photos of the shiny kegs, the shiny what do you call them? The fermentation tanks and the actual brew house itself. It's pretty impressive. We've gone from a 300 litre system, and this is a 2,000 litre system. And you'll still keep your one there at Moffs, or?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll definitely keep that. That's our spiritual home, and I still aim to brew on that kit once a week. You know, some of our beers that are a little bit more sort of off the wall and left of centre, we'll do down there. If I come up with a new idea, I'll go down to Moffs and bang out a beer. And if it's shit, it's only 5 kegs. If it's good, we'll scale it up and you know, put it out for distribution. So yeah, that'll be our pilot system. But there's no way that we'd just rip that gear out of there because the place would lose its magic. So definitely keep Moffs going. And he's got to pay for everything as well because it's a fairly capital intensive exercise.
Yeah, 100%. So just for people who don't know, and g'day to Tristan, Vicky, my man Flacco's here, RJ Fraser Carpentry, thanks for popping in. So Moffs, we're here with Matty Wilson from the Moffat Beach Brewing Co. And Moffat Beach Brewing Co., it's about the size of, I guess, a standard cafe, maybe slightly wider. So it's not a huge joint, but it comes out. Moffat Beach has this little strip of cafes that runs down to the water and the main car park there. And it's just always buzzing. It's always happening there. Like every time I drive by, there are people in there having a great time, and I'm regularly jealous. So I just see them, you know, you can sit at the front, you know, at a you know, on a stool with a bench in front of you, just the same as you'd sit at any bar. But instead of just looking at, like, you know, some dingy dive bar or something,
you're looking out at Moffat Beach, like, yeah, you see the playground, the big oak tree, you've got the ocean, you've got all the beautiful views that I was ranting and raving about last week when I was talking about the Pocket, and how, like, the Pocket, is also, I guess, quite an iconic location now there. I guess the two of you guys really getting in there and expanding has probably changed the scenery down there drastically.
Oh, without a doubt. The Pocket started up in their old site. I think it was in 2012 as well, probably 3, maybe 6 months before us.
Yeah.
And then we started, and look, we're competitors, but we do get on. And I think that both of us have sort of lifted the sort of, for lack of a better word, the vibe of the area.
It's a beautiful spot to go, and I mean, Moffat Beach is just a little hidden gem, and anybody's coming on holidays or to visit, to just stroll on down there, you've got everything you need, really, which is awesome, because really there's not a lot going on the Sunshine Coast. Someone's come from the city. I know, for me, moving up from Brisbane, for example, I used to do a bit of Uber driving when I first got up here, and so I quickly kind of learned, all the people would be pretty much heading to, well, they either go to the RSL club here, or your joint, or they go up to Maroochydore, if they want to go out in Ocean Street. And that's sort of it. But I mean, that's sort of it. That's a different bag altogether. It's the young scuttlers. So, and look, for people who haven't been to the brewery, you should check out the Instagram is probably the best place to get a bit of a feel for the place. They have some fun experimental sort of beers. Like, I really love some of the beer names. Like, you rattle off for us, like, 10 of your top selling beers, like, and the names of them.
We got the Deadbeat Boyfriend, Iggy Hop Double IPA, the Passenger Pale Ale, Moff Summer Ale. What else have we got? Hazed and Confused Hazy IPA. Headland Hazy. We've made over 50 different beers since we've been.
Psychotic Girl. You had Psychotic Girl.
Psychotic Girl. There's what else have we got? We just put out a new beer called the Trilogy Best Coast IPA, because we figure we live on the Best Coast. And there's 3 different hops in it. There's the Fu Manchu Amber IPA. What else have we got? The Hips and Doofus ESB, which is a little bit of a dig at the hipsters getting around the place with their beards, which I was one of them until this morning.
Your moustache, yeah.
But
people will be popping on going, I thought I was here to see Matt Wilson.
Yeah, I know.
Who's this?
My face is red raw from it too. So
yeah. Yes, no, that's awesome. And some kind of what are some of the more experimental beers you've done in terms of like flavour combos? Because I know I really enjoyed that. I don't know if it was Psychotic Girl, but there was one that's kind of like a sour sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's actually in tank at the moment. So we did a kettle sour, which was called Party Mix. And it's got dragon fruit and passion fruit in it. And I soured that in a kettle just using those little lactobacillus drinks, the Yakult. So I got them from Coles. They're a bit of a pain in the ass to rip all those little foil lids off, because there was 100 little bottles, and the lady at Coles goes, "You got a tummy ache, love." I'm making a beer out of it. That was a pretty cool beer. We've got a beer in tank at the moment, which is a bourbon barrel-aged stout, which I bought an old bourbon barrel which was in the States, and then it went up to Canada, and they had maple syrup in it. Yeah. And then it's come to me, and then I've put a stout in that, and it's been aging in that barrel for about 10 months now. So I'm now going to blend it with some younger beer, because pretty bourbony, and then we'll have a really cool black beer with a real bourbon sort of backbone to it.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and a bit of a backstory. And there's not too many people doing beer brewed in wood, are they?
There is more and more of it is happening, but it's something that you've got to be really patient with because it's sitting there for quite some time. But there are a lot of brewers starting to do some sour beers in wood. Some guys down in Melbourne, Boat Rocker is one that comes to mind, and a few others that some of those sours that are aged in wood for 12 months and longer, and then they blend them together. They're really complex and magnificent. So it is something that is getting more popular, but you've got to be patient with it, and it takes. It's not like the most, I wouldn't say, profitable thing to be getting into. You're probably doing it more for fun than making money out of it because they just take so long to produce.
Yeah, and with those, are there things you can, like along the way, can you kind of get an idea of how it's sort of headed and do anything to sort of change, I guess, what's happening, or is it kind of you
once it's in that barrel, because you've got to be careful too with because you're putting in bugs into that barrel. So like Brettanomyces, Pediococcus, and Lactobacillus, which break down the long chain sugars. That normal Saccharomyces, which is brewer's yeast, can't break down. You've just got to let them do their thing. They take a long time to break down those long chain sugars, but you've got to be really careful with sanitation because if you get that into your clean tanks and stuff, you can end up with a bit of a problem on your hands. You can infect your clean tanks in your other brewery, and it can be quite difficult to get it out. So.
Yeah, not something I want to have happening.
No, there's some breweries that do that. They have, they'll have their wild beer. So you have, they call it wild beer and clean beer. They'll have their wild beer in a different area, and some of them have policies that if you're working in the barrel room, you're not allowed back into the clean side of the brewery until the next day.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, which is probably fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were brewing at home, were you kind of like, what did that sort of look like? I'm assuming it was a little bit more advanced than just the sort of standard kit that you got.
But I didn't do any of the kits or anything like that. Like I went full all grain from the get-go. I built it myself. It's just like a 40-litre coffee urn that you often see it. Well, that I used to see, it's sort of weekend sport back in the day where so I just sort of Frankensteined it. I put a ball valve tap on the bottom of it and built a false bottom so that it was over the element. And I just used to boil in that and did what's called brew in a bag. So I'd have like a nylon bag that the grain was in, and then I built a little pulley system that you'd pull the bag out, and I had taps set up at home, which I still have, but I don't really use them. I don't brew on that system at all anymore. I think my wife would kill me if I came home from brewing all week and then just decided to bang out a batch in the garage. So, but yeah, it was a little bit more advanced than just your Cooper's kit that a lot of people start out on.
Yeah, yeah. So let's wind the clock back because your backstory is kind of intriguing, because and as I put in a little write up, I liked you and Shaz as soon as I met you, and I think largely you're a down to earth guy. I've given you a label of an Aussie larrikin, which is something I try to aspire to. And I think it's a good thing. So, and we both have some country origins there, which is, I guess, also helps. So shout out to Gunnadah and Malali. If anyone's watching from Malali, way out in the west of New South Wales. G'day to Moto 360 and Shazabri, Matt 1979. How are you? So yes, talk about so tell us about the story of how you got into the military and then what you were doing there, because that's quite interesting in itself.
Yeah, so I grew up in rural New South Wales, in a little town called Gunnadah. My dad was the local stock and station agent there, and I went to boarding school in Sydney, and from grade 7, so when I was 12 through to when I finished school when I was 18, and I was an okay rugby player, so I had a year just playing rugby in Sydney, and then I sort of worked out that probably my ambition exceeded my ability, and I was never going to play for the Wallabies or anything like that. So I thought, well, I was always interested in the army as a kid growing up. So I thought, well, I might join that. So it took a fair while for my application to get processed. I think it was about a year and a bit.
Wow.
And then, just doing like the testing and the medical, and then I had to wait for a place to pop up. So then my mother was living in Newcastle at that stage. I went home to them and did a bit of labouring whilst I was waiting for my sort of ticket to go. And then, then off I went, did my basic training down at Kapuka, and then to the School of Infantry at Singleton, and then I was posted to the 1st Battalion, and that's where I spent pretty much all my time. So then
and where was that?
That's in Townsville.
Yes,
in Townsville.
Yeah, that's at the northern end of Queensland.
The capital of the north, the Townsville people like to call it.
What do they call it?
The capital of the north.
Oh, capital of the north, do they? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed my time doing that. I started my time just as a normal rifleman in Charlie Company, and then I did my first tour to East Timor in sort of, it was 99, 2000, around then, and then finished that, and then I came back, and then I applied to do the recon course. So I did that, which was awesome, loved it. Really, really tough course. But then once I finished that, I was selected to join that platoon, and I never really left there. It was such a good job. We were in helicopters and Black Hawks all the time and things like that. I did a second tour of East Timor with them. And then after, I went to Hawaii as well. I got posted on exchange with the Marines. So I spent about 6 months in Hawaii over there, which was such a great trip. We worked really, really hard, but the downtime was pretty good. And then after my second trip to Timor, I just wanted to have a break from it. So I took a year off without pay. And
working as a sniper, weren't you?
I was in recon sniper platoon, but I was in the recon side of things, which is basically, the job is basically gathering intelligence. So in conventional ops, your job is to sort of go behind enemy lines and just take photographs and things like that. And you're in a small patrol, so 5-man patrol. You have a scout, patrol commander, a SIG, medic, and the 2IC, and everyone's cross-trained and everything. And I was the medic in our patrol. Getting back to that, after my second trip to Timor, I just wanted to have a bit of a break from it. So because I really wasn't at home a lot. I was single still at the time. I was about 29. And then my first year out of school, I had a job just in a stockbroking firm as a bookings clerk, just booking up the trades.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, well, maybe I'll give this a crack. So I just wrote a letter to every single stockbroking firm in Sydney, and then one of them sort of, I don't know, they must have just liked the military bit on my resume. They gave me a go, and I started at the bottom there, and then I did a few courses, and that's how I met my wife, Shaz. And then I just never went back. So I ended up doing that job until 2012, which is when I was made redundant. And then Sharon had, she'd only just gone back to work after having a second little girl, and she was only doing 3 days a week and living in Sydney. Just her on a part-time job and me not working wasn't going to cut it financially. And she just really didn't want to bring the kids up in Sydney. So, and I was going to find it hard to find another gig in that role just because of the state of the market and whatnot at the time. So we had a little bit of money saved up. So we, that's how we made
you got up here.
The sea change, the classic sea change to the sea coast.
Probably the best decision of your life, really. I mean,
we 100% best thing that we did. We love it up here. We've made some really good friends. We've worked really, really hard in the business to build it to where it is. But look, it's just been a really great journey, and our kids don't know any different. They've pretty much lived their whole life here. So it's a pretty good place to live.
Yeah, 100%, sure is. I mean, I don't know how you find it, but I get a little bit frustrated with my kids because, like, they don't know really any different. And so, like, for me, I've said this on other shows, so forgive me, seeing me say the same stuff, but growing up out west, like, it's dry and you're so far away from, like, the ocean. Whenever I go to the ocean, it was like a magical experience. I just absolutely loved it, and I used to just fantasize about living somewhere that had, like, rainforests and palm trees and stuff. So for me to live here, I look out the bedroom window at a Pendennis palm, and I can just stroll on down to the beach, and I've just started getting to stand up paddleboarding. So I've just it's a bit of a lake out there today. Like, there's not much, like, in terms of waves, but I just this weekend gone, I just caught my first few waves. So I used to surf when I was, like, in my teens and up to 20, but I hadn't surfed like 20 years. Plus, as you know, broke my back a few years back, so not feeling my right foot made it a little bit trickier in terms of getting the swing of things. But I'm getting there. So there's hope of trying to get onto a better surfboard and give it a go.
Well, you're in the right spot to do it. But I've got a stand-up paddleboard as well, and Shaz bought it for me for my birthday one year to sort of get out there and clear the head. But I don't get out there as much as what I would like. Yeah,
you need to get into it. Well, we might better hit the water together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. G'day, Gunnadah. Gunnadah's joined us. Now, the thing is, I'd just like to also open things up for people if they have any questions, whether it's beer related, Australia related, moustache related. Missing moustache. So for some of the people who've turned up later, and they maybe it's the first time they've ever seen you. So Matt had, like, really quite a established. I was going to say Merv Hughes, but that's a very Australian reference, and he had a bit more of a. I think he had the full one.
He had the full handlebars. I didn't have the full.
Yours is a bit more. What's that classic dude from the 80s? Who's the guy who used to drive around the Ferrari sort of thing? And
I don't know.
Something starting with M. I saw something on
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI. Yeah. I think it was probably more like a Magnum PI style moustache.
Yeah, it was a bit more Burt Reynolds than Chopper Reed.
Yes, indeed. It's fourth shark attack in Australia now. Is that right? Donado's got more news happening than I do. Sharks. Yeah, I think they're getting unfortunately, I think they're getting a bit kind of hungrier or something. Oh, here we go. G'day, Booze Reviews AU. For someone who's aware of Matt and Moffat Beach Brewing Co. So, tell us the story of when you had your first drink.
My first drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I went to boarding school in Sydney, and my dad, who's a bit of a character and can be a bit naughty, he came up for the weekend, watched the rugby at school, and then we went out for the weekend. We were staying at McMahon's Point there, and then we went into Darling Harbour, and there was a place there called the Pump House, which was a little sort of microbrewery, and the old man sort of ripped a few. I was about 14 or 15, I think, and he's ripped a few of these Thunderbolt ales into me, which were about 6%, and you wouldn't get away with doing it now. But yeah, we had a great little time, and then he sent me back to school half pissed. So yeah, and then from then on, I wasn't drinking all the time from when I was 14, but that was probably my first sort of time that I had a beer and just went, wow, this is awesome. So
this is sort of fun. Well, how did you go with the flavour? Because for me, I felt like beer was a bit of an acquired taste. What did you think of the taste of beer?
So Dad wasn't too fussed on those at the time. I remember him saying, because he was used to drinking till he's new in the pub in Gunnadah. So he wasn't too fussed on it, but I thought it was amazing. I just remember going, geez, I really, really enjoyed that. And but then when I was back home on school holidays and stuff, when I was sort of 16, 17, Dad used to put me to work in the cattle yards, and we'd go for a beer. I used to drink middies, as they call them in New South Wales, but pots here, and we'd have a pot of new each, and it was great. So I didn't really get into craft beer until I sort of left the army. Being in Queensland, in tropical Townsville, it was a bit of a 4X town, so that's sort of what I drank up there.
That's about the furthest you get from craft beer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even know what craft beer was, but I think, I had a Little Creatures for the first time, and I was just like, what's this? And I wouldn't have been able to drink more than two of them.
Yeah.
Because they were just so floral and fruity. But then I started drinking Coopers, and then it was just like a little bit of a progression from there. I was in the Coopers, and then Four Pines, and then Stone and Wood, and then it's just gone on from there. But I remember when we first put the taps in at Moffat Beach, it was a bit of a hard slog because craft beer was pretty new to the region, and I think we started off with we had Four Pines Kolsch, Four Pines Pale Ale, we had Stone and Wood Pacific Ale, Moobrew Pilsner, Murray's Whale Ale, and there was one more, Holgate Mount Macedon Pale Ale, which they're all great beers, but now they're probably fairly not sort of run of the mill, that they're not too adventurous now. But it was a bit of a hard slog at times. Like people would just go, "Whoa, what's this?" And I remember we put on we got it was a Holgate Road Trip IPA.
Yeah.
And we had a key of that, and it took us a month to get through it. And there were these painters that were, that come in, and they still come in. And I remember them they had one, and they got it because of the name Road Trip, and they just went, I don't think you should be selling that, mate. So it's pretty full on. Like I said, one boy said, I really struggled to get through that. And now these same blokes are drinking Schooners of Iggy Hop Double IPA at 9%, and, so it's been really good seeing
so
people's palates change down there.
Yeah, pallets. That's what I was just wondering about, like when you were chatting, because like I think I said to you when one of the times I was in that like that darker ale and stuff like that, I've never really been a big fan of. But it sounds a little bit like you might, gradually end like get a palate for it. I suppose if you start drinking some of the other ones that are a bit sort of what would you say heavier, or what do you call it when it goes in that progression?
Yeah.
Heavier, darker.
But yeah, we've definitely seen people's palates change, and it's great, because I remember being a kid, or in my 20s or whatever. You go into the pub and there'd be 6 taps of pretty much exactly the same beer,
Yeah, different makers. Yeah,
breweries, and it's it's all the same sort of stuff. It's just a generic yellow fizzy lager, whereas I suppose at our place we try and have on a broad range of styles so that we can keep everyone will be happy with at least one of the beers that they get there.
Yeah. And what would you say, like your typical customers? Do you have a lot of repeat locals, or do you have people kind of venturing up to check it out?
We've got a good mixture. Like the locals are our bread and butter, and we've got some really good local clientele. We get a lot of day trippers from Brisbane that will either come up for the weekend or just come up for lunch, which is the main reason why I designed the beer, our social jam mid-strength pale ale. So it's 3.5%. So we designed that beer just so that the people from Brisbane, that they could have 1 or 2 beers and still be able to drive home. And then we've really sort of, since we have won a few awards, we've seen a lot of beer tourists coming in as well. So people who are actually coming up to visit us specifically because they're into beer.
That's cool.
And especially now with the sunny coast, I think there's 17 breweries on the sunny coast now. So it's become a bit of a destination for people who are into beer. So and you can do. Josh has got his beer tour company, so you can.
That's it.
Get a few of them in. We are pretty. As you know, the coast is spread out. So it's a bit of a struggle to drive to them all. So
beer tour is probably the way to go. And so, what's the name of his company again?
Sunshine Coast Craft Beer Tours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Coast Craft Beer Tours. Anybody who into the beer scene watching this now or later on, you could come up and visit Matt Wilson at the Moffat Beach Brewing Co. It's just a cracking spot. I mean, I think everyone will fall in love with it. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing a disservice by advertising how great it is here, because it might not be a hidden gem. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile to drop in and have a beer. I like the aesthetic there, as you know. So we may at some point do this sort of thing in a live type sort of format, as we were originally got the lots of band posters and things like that, which I like. G'day, Evie Scorpion 85. Now Shazabri says Matt Winter Ale Christmas cake in a schooner. There you go.
That's that winter ale that's sort of inspired. We went, Shaz and I and the girls, we went over to North America last year for a holiday, but also a bit of a research and development trip. And there was a winter ale in pretty much everywhere. We were there in our summer, North American winter, and there was a winter ale in every place that we went to. So that was an idea that we brought back, and that beer, it's got a real Christmas cake. It's darker than a brown ale and lighter than a stout. So it's got that Christmas cake thing going on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, it's making me thirsty all this bloody beer talk. Terrible. Oh my goodness. Now, who else we got here? We've got Justin Horsfall. Thanks. Say g'day. It's your job. I've only been doing these live things for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. There's this guy, Coach Jay, in the States that I first came by. I was watching Gary V, who does a lot of stuff around social media and what have you. tuned into his stuff for a few years, and he had a show called TGB, and he's doing like interviews just with random people. He's got a lot of business advice, whereas I don't. Well, I don't want to give too much business advice out until I have an amazing, cracking, successful business. I've had a couple of cracks and haven't quite nailed it yet. COVID, of course, didn't help, but it's in some ways, I think. I know I'm excited because what I'm doing with Flicks for Good, the social enterprise, I think it's going to be exciting. And if I kick it off and it goes as well as I'm planning, then that'll create a lot of job opportunities here on the coast, particularly for creative people who like that space with TV and movies and all that sort of thing. So, it's interesting. Now, here's an interesting question to ask you, because gunnadah, it sort of got put a little bit on the map, I think, thanks to Miranda Kerr, and most living men know who he is. And I heard a rumour that construction that's going on down at Dicky Beach is apparently going to be like a little McMansion of hers. Have you heard this story?
I have heard the rumour, my mother was pretty good friends with Miranda's auntie.
Oh, right.
And Miranda's mother, and she put the feelers out. Apparently, it's not true.
Bogus.
So
Sorry, God.
they might be throwing a bit of a smoke screen as well. You wouldn't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, don't know.
It's got to be pretty tricky, I think, if you're any sort of supermodel, like, and you just want to go casually to the beach, and to be fairly hard to do. So if somebody getting into brewing now, like, what would be your suggestion, like, in terms of like the stages? How does it typically unfold?
What you mean? Someone that wanted to start a brewery?
Not a brewery, just like getting into doing some beer at home, I suppose.
Getting into doing some beer at home. There's a couple of ways that you can sort of do it. The first and easiest one that a lot of people do is they just get the Cooper's kit and do that. Another way, your beer won't be that great from doing that. Another way that people get into it is just with the fresh wort kits. So there's a brewery in Banyo in Brisbane called All In, and they make these fresh wort kits. So and basically all that you've got to do is pour that into a fermenter and then add your yeast, and then you can dry hop it, and then that will ferment out for you. But probably the best thing to do would just be to go to a pretty good homebrew shop and ask the guys in there, what's the best way to start out. YouTube's a pretty good resource for people to sort of look at. But when I started out, there's a homebrew shop at Capella called Craft Brewer. I just used to go in there and pick their brains, and that's how I started. And then another one of my mates, Dan Rawlins, he's got a place on the north side of Brisbane called Hoppy Days. So and they're pretty helpful in there as well. So I reckon the best way to sort of get into it would just be to go into, and I'm not talking like a little homebrew shop, go into one that specialises in all grain, and just go and hit them up. That's the best way to start.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, I guess now, like you say, with YouTube, that helps a lot in terms of the techniques and what have you. And also craft brewing really took off. Like we left Brisbane a couple of years ago, but by the time we left, there were a few places like that had sort of appeared on the scene. I had a crack at home brewing back in the day. My old man used to do it for a little while there, like in my kind of late teens, and similar to you, like from 16-ish onwards, like, I sort of helped doing a bunch of stuff around the house. Then, like in the yard, they built a house, and he basically roped me into doing all the slave labour for the garden. And it was a steep block right down to the river at Raleigh. Beautiful place, like in a country down near Coffs Harbour. But there was anything that was going down had to be taken down by hand or by crane, and so a lot of it was by my hands. So Dad was like, okay, Brad probably needs some exercise. I think he thought, that's a good way to teach me a few things about, gardening, construction, whatever. But yeah, there's nothing like, I think, having a cold beer after a full day of work.
It's pretty good.
It is a good thing. I even worked on a banana plantation down in Bridgen near Kingscliff. So it's got almost the southern end of northern end of the northern end of New South Wales, kind of near the border, not far off the border from Queensland and New South Wales. But I was working with a banana plantation, and they had a little set up there looking out over the farm, where everybody got to have one beer. I think you could buy more beer from them for like a pretty cheap price. They're just stubbies, But and they had so everyone would get a beer at the end of the day working. It's pretty good.
Awesome.
Now I prefer to skip the banana plantation because that's not fun at all, and just come to your place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shazabree's asking, how's the new site progressing?
New site is progressing well. All the stainless steel is in place. We've put all of the hard piping together. The steam boiler went in last week. We just got to commission that. There's still a fair bit of work to do, but we are, we're getting there. So I'm hoping to brew on the kit by the end of this month. And then we'll open sometime in October, hopefully. But having done this once before, sometimes these sort of times do blow out a little bit. So we'll definitely be up and running by the Christmas holiday period, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the taps went in last week, so we've got 20 taps on coming out of a refrigerated shipping container in there, and the place is really starting to look cool, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I saw some of the artwork looked awesome. There was like a green wall with the kind of the hoppy sort of thing.
Yeah, so we got the idea from Shaz and I went to Beervana in New Zealand last year, and there was one brewery there, I think it's called Husk, and they had this awesome mural as you walked in, and I just said to Shaz, I said, this would look really cool on a shipping container with some taps coming out of it. So that's where we got the idea from, but we didn't want to use their exact design. So we got a local artist, a guy called Steve Bordenaro, who does a lot of murals and stuff around town. And we probably wouldn't have dreamed of using anyone else just because, Steve is local, and he's young bloke, used to work for us as well. And then, he came up with the concept, so he designed it. We gave him the brief of what we wanted, and he's just absolutely knocked it out of the park. It looks amazing. Yeah. So we're pretty happy with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's give him a little bit of a shout out. What's his name?
Steve Bordenaro.
Steve Bordenaro. Do you know if he's on Instagram?
He is on Instagram, but I'm on social media.
When I
Borderline Crazy Horse Studios is the name of his little studio.
What is it?
Crazy Horse Studios.
Crazy Horse. Okay, well that's easy to remember. That's much better than Bordenaro. I like the look of that. So that's good. And as far as the process goes, in a bigger setup like that, is it a fun process, or you got to learn a whole bunch of new skills?
No, same process, but scaling up the recipes is there will be a little bit of trial and error involved in that, but I'm quite confident of being able to do it very, very quickly. It's going to be a lot easier and a lot less scarier. Going from 350 litres to 2,000 litres than what it was going from 30 litres in my backyard to the 350 litre system. So I'm finding this is a lot less daunting than what it was when I jumped from a homebrew setup to what was and what still is a commercial setup at Moffat Beach.
Yes. I can imagine. You don't want to
But,
start.
you know, in saying that, I'm always learning new things.
Yeah. Have you got much of a community? Like, is there much on the coast in terms of people who are into it?
Yeah, the brewers here on the coast, we're all pretty good mates, and we catch up once a quarter as well. We call it the Brewers Social, and we take it in turns to host the night, and we get there and we bounce ideas off each other. We talk things about sort of education, a little bit of sort of government stuff, what's happening with the industry. So we do that, and then you know, I've putting this system in. There's a couple of other brewers on the coast that have got the almost exact same size equipment and from the same manufacturer. So Rupert from Ten Toes and Krista McGarry from Your Mate's Brewing Company, I've been giving them a bit of a shout out whenever I've had a question, and they've both been really, really helpful as well. So
good.
We're competitors, but we're also friends, so we sort of get on. And yeah, that Brewer Social is it's a pretty good night. When it was at Moffat Beach, Shaz left early, and then she must have looked on the cameras from home and saw that we were hooking in probably a little bit more than what we should have, and she rang up and put a stop to proceedings at about sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Anyway.
Like, are you trying to send us broke over there? What's going on?
Yeah. But we're just having fun.
That's good. Mate, well, the countdown clock's come on here. We've got about a minute and a half. So thanks very much for joining us for Mondays at Moffs. I appreciate it. I just encourage anybody who's watching now or watching this later on, please, do your bit and share. It's really just about trying to build more awareness for companies on the coast, and particularly our beautiful little Moffat Beach. I hope it also helps to build more community too, because it's good to hear other people's stories. You never know, like, where you've got different areas you can connect on. I guess if you're looking for a great spot to go and have a yarn, then the Moffat Beach Brewing Co down there is a good place to go. Have a schooner or two or more, and enjoy your
Awesome.
time. Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, I'll catch you next time.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, buddy. Yes. Oh, good stuff. So just out of interest, before we go, we've got 30 seconds. Tell me, everybody who's still here, what country you are in. I'm just intrigued. I've got web, or maybe you've got people leaving. I know, Tina, you're here. Oh, I can't wait. No, he says Paulie. Paulie 650 must be local.
We'll skip that.
All right.
Oh, there we go. Skip that. Thanks for coming, everybody, live and on the repeat. It's been fun. It's been fun for me to watch the show, and part of the reason why I've disappeared here and there was that I wanted to actually share a little bit of the beer with my wife so that she could try some as well. So I'm not just knocking them all down, but fortunately, I still got a couple left. So thanks again, Matt and team at the Moffat Beach Brewing Co. for equipping me with those little cans. Anybody who wants to pick up some samplers of what they're brewing down there can swing by and pick some up. And 500 ml is a good size to share, or good size just to have a couple yourself. A pint, essentially. Have a pint, as the Europeans do. The Irish might have you. So, anyway, thanks for coming, and I will see you guys again soon. Tomorrow is Tangent Tuesday, the real deal. So tune into your socials and see what's happening there, and join us if you can. All right. Hooroo. Have a good night.